Likkutei Behar, page 80, first column. The last thing that Rabbi is doing is comparing this physical growth of a seed in the ground, germinating and rotting, and then it reveals the koyach that it has to plant things. So same thing in Ruchnius, Hazerim Bedima Berini Yikseru, through the level of Bittul, you come to the highest level. So start over here, page 80, like 8 lines from the top of the page. Vinay Kmesh Bizriya Gashim is just like a physical planting. And it doesn't grow until this seed germinates. The Yavsin gets lost. The Yishtanim and changes from its original essence. The Aniklit Baris Mamish Vayuchal Mamish, and it becomes one. So in order for the person to plant bread, meaning to create bread that keeps Hashem in the world, in a spiritual sense, is bottom idea Mesiras Nefesh, but Torah mitzvahs through Mesiras Nefesh of Torah mitzvahs, Lis Nikletes Mesached Baritz Elyena, to be connected, meaning just like the seed becomes rots and becomes bottled to the ground, the neshama has to be, so to speak, rotting, meaning bittul, and it becomes one with Hashem, which is Malchut Shechina Suze, Aidei Mesiras Nefesh Zu, which is Allah Isman, Yisirusa Dulasata, awakening from below. Like it says, Biyotcha Afkid Ruchi. Like we say before going to sleep, in your hand I give a pikod, and I give to watch my soul. And through this, the Torah that you learned in this world becomes united. Meaning in Gan Eden, just like the power of vegetation that the seed possesses through the level of bittul, through the seed rotting, so the same, then it becomes one with the ground. The same thing, a neshama, when it has bittul of Mesiras Nefesh, then it becomes one with the earth from above, meaning the heavenly worlds.
That's the only way?
That's the only way. On his terms, not on ours. Therefore, a person has to understand, this is the way you need to learn Torah, what does Mesiras Nefesh mean? You can't make secondary primary. In other words, we have to know what the priorities are in life. Are they the Gashmistic things, Gashmistic world, or are they the Ruchniistic world? It shouldn't only be Torah dealing with physical things. He has to, in other words, he shouldn't be studying Torah as an intellectual subject of a university. There's math and there's Talmud. He says, no, it has to be in the level of Chochmah, and to become one with the Torah they're learning. In fact, it says in the Pasuk, the Gemara learns this, it says they put Adum over there. It says, Adam kiyamas ba'oil. If a person will die in a tent. So the Gemara says, Eina Torah miskayemes el b'mi shemei misatzmei aleh. Torah only exists by somebody who dies for it, so to speak. What do you mean die for it? Your whole life is the study of Torah. And if you can't do it on a 24/7 basis, the Rebbe explains, at least when you're learning, you should be completely in it. Like we spoke the other day. The phone ring, there's no cell phone in the middle of davening or learning. There's nothing in the middle. It's like we said Shabbos. Yeah? Shabbos, the phone rings. It doesn't even think about answering it. A person has to devote himself to die for it. The expression is they're dying for it, They're dying to have it. The Buddha Shalmakim to realize it's the words of Hashem. That it's the word of Hashem. The godliness in the Torah as in lemud the bechinas man. Then the Avodah has been mayim look from this the awakening from below. Okay? So now he says you have to make that's how he started the whole thing with Pirschli, Achesi, Rayosi. So first he explains Achesi is instinctive love, becoming one. Then the second part of the pasuk Rayosi, he explains that's the level of feeding Hashem, being Hashem's shepherd. And he explained the mashal of Gashmis. Just like there's bread, you have to make the bread in a certain way. Bread exists in a certain way. So that's the way a Jew has to give parnasa to Hashem. So now he says in Gimel, that this should also be one with the godly soul. This where davening comes into the picture. Until now, the Alter Rebbe is speaking about learning Torah. Now the Alter Rebbe speaks about how do you get that Torah should become one with Hashem? That's through davening. Because davening is called nefesh. Like it says, I will pour out my soul to you, meaning davening. So davening is called nefesh. So what's the avodah of davening? To awaken the love of davening. The long ear of the soul. The level of achesi. So now the Alter Rebbe is explaining the word achesi is a level of davening, becoming one. Remember he said before it means sewing, becoming weaving, becoming one. Davening, the word tefillah, what's the root of the word tefillah? It has a lot of meaning. To judge. But it also means, tefillah means to bind. Naftali elikim niftalti, Rashi says, Lashon chibur. Davening binds the Jew to Hashem. So first you need achesi. First you need the avodah of davening, the awakening of the soul. And then that causes that the rayasi, the learning Torah, is done properly. That means Hashem then has a good diet, so to speak, that it functions properly. That's the level of bittul. That this level of Mesiras Nefesh should be ingrained within the soul at the time of davening, which is Chachmilah. Therefore, therefore, when the person learns afterwards, it happens, then the learning becomes bottle. That's why we said, explained yesterday also, in order to have either first davening and then learning. Because first you need bittul, which davening awakens, connecting to Hashem, like a korban that you burn the whole animal on the mizbeach. And then you can come to rayos, then you can come to proper learning Torah. That the earth of Torah, the light of Torah, becomes one with the light of the neshama. Therefore, when's the proper time of learning? Biyad achar tefillah. Like it says in Shchunar, you go from Beis HaKnesses to Beis HaMedrash. But he said, because now that you still have the impact of davening, the influence of davening on you, so then right away when you start learning, so the learning is done properly. What?
You open up like a channel.
Fortune is the one that comes here to Gan Eden and the Talmud in his hand. So he says like this. This is all part of the planting process. Remember he said there's planting and grinding and kneading, and so divided he speaks, and now he's going to go into grinding. But he says, that's why it said Talmud biyodei. The statement doesn't make sense. The Gemara says, fortune is the one that comes up to Gan Eden, and his Talmud in his hand. Learning is not in your hand, it's in your mind. Why does it say Talmud biyodei? See, like he said, Alter Rebbe explained before, whoever says I only have Torah without bringing it down into action, it's worthless. You don't even have Torah. Because Torah is not a wisdom, And this is the difference between Torah and Lahavdil, a million steps. But between Torah and other wisdoms have nothing to do with your behavior. You could be a brilliant doctor, a great doctor, and yet live completely unhealthy lifestyle. You could be a moralist and live a life of completely immorality. And it's not a country that doesn't take away from the fact that you're not a brilliant doctor or a brilliant moralist. Like we said about Aristotle. But according to Torah, if you don't live with the Torah you learned, your Torah is nothing. It's worthless. Now he's worthless and say you should have never been born. Because the whole concept of Torah is Torah, guidance, the constitution of life. That's what Torah is. It's not a wisdom. Yeah, Torah is the wisdom of Hashem, which is Chachmaschem or Beinaschem, is the wisdom for all nations. But the bottom line is, Torah is not a knowledgeable book. It is. But that's not what Torah is all about. Then it's not Torah. Torah means Torah, guidance, how to live. 80. About 15 lines in the end of the first column. Okay, that's the level of Zriya, right? You have to have bittul germinating. What is the level of grinding? It's the lev nishper v'nitke. Milashe, it says, in Tilim, there's a lot of time, lev nishper v'nitke. Broken, and what does nitke mean? Nitke means dachu bamducha, grinding in a grinder. By the mon, it says they ground it in the grinder. What does that mean? What is the concept? Again, the concept of grinding is okay? You grind it up, then it turns into little particles. By the Keteiros, right? You grind it up well. It's like grinding the grains. So he says, what does grinding mean? You take it and you grind it up into fine particles. 1 second. And then you have lisha, then you have the kneading process. It's very interesting. You take a kernel of wheat, yeah? Okay, beside the germination. But what do? You take a kernel of wheat, which is one substance, you grind it down, making it 1,000,000 particles, right? And then you take water to unite them all back together again. You take a wheat, you grind it, it becomes flour, which means 1,000,000 particles, and then lisha, kneading it, is you put water in it to unite it again.
It sounds like a bakery now.
We are
Is there any connection here between the four words? Like, the way it forms, the way it comes to get form.
I haven't the faintest idea, honestly, I haven't the faintest idea. You want to write a book, I'll autograph it.
But the uniting is different.
1 second. Okay.
Not the same.
Right. The dafka bay. In other words, the grinding process makes it separate entities, but then the separate entities become one with the water. That means there's no more pirud. There's no more separation. There's only unity.
Torah is mine.
Yeah, 1 second. And then you have Afiyah. Became Matzah V'chesik of Korban Mincha Mafisanu. Like it says, Takri B'la Yud, meaning, Shanefesh Reitz Liskariv La'atzma La'Shem. Then it has to be baked in an oven. But also, Etzen Noshim Lachem Chatanu Echod. What does it mean to take this kneaded process, yeah, and then it's still not bread. You have to bake it. What does baking do? Fire. Pirish. She'yeh believe awaken in your heart. Rish be'esh ava, the burning love of Hashem, in a level of echad, betanu echad. You know, this pasuk, that 10 women are going to have to use one oven, is in the teichacha, in the curses. It'll be so bad they won't even have their own ovens. But Chassidus explains what Alter Rebbe is explaining over here. Everything is good, unbelievable brachas. V'afo esen noshim lachmechem betanu echad means, why does it pick 10 women, not 20 women? He's speaking about the 10 koiches of the nefesh, the 10 powers of the nefesh. What's going to happen? It's going to be baked in one tanur echad, that the 10 levels of the neshama are going to become one. In simple English, tefillah b'tzibur, we learned already, halachically, when you have 10 Jews, becomes a Eidah, a minyan, a community, yeah? According to halacha, a Eidah is not 10 individuals. It becomes a new entity. In other words, 10 entities can't say Kedusha, Baruch Hu, because the 10 entities become separate entities, become one new entity that has an abundance of Kedusha, more than 10 individuals. So then, that level, okay. So what is the inyan of davening? And this, basically what he says, the kneading and the kneading and the baking. Baking unites, the water unites. Okay, may call Hatzalah. What happens is, you take the 10 particles that were united, and now you inflame it with heat. In other words, the number 10 represents the 10 powers of the soul. Now normally the 10 powers of the soul are very different. Chochmah is different than Bina, Chesed is different than Gvura. But when you have 10 things, bottle, all subjugated to the cause, then like we said, in the art you have contrasting colors. In a symphony of contrasting music. But when they blend together in harmony, then you have a beautiful symphony, a beautiful painting. So the concept of davening really is to take the 10 koiches and the nefesh into one.
And that's amazing.
That's why when there was this chassid that the wagon driver wanted to leave on a trip early in the morning, and he said, I tried to daven with tzibur. I tried to daven with the minyan. So the guy came, okay, the minyan 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, at night, 11, 12 o'clock, the guy was still davening. He said, you told me you daven with the tzibur. He says, what I meant is, I tried to daven with the 10 powers of my soul, my own minyan. The minyan, internal minyan, is the 10 powers of the soul. And in a way that he creates a fire of baking. The Rish Be'esh, Pirish, Sheyair, Beli Berish Be'ava, Machmas Bechinas Echad, Hain Migdulot, Shamelach, Malchi, Amlach, Makadosh Baruch, the greatness, the oneness of Hashem, Hamamalev, the Savior, Kol Almin, the Kula, Kamekol Choshev Mamish, your realization that everything is Einoid Mulvade, basically, Ashar came to slide, to slide Nafshi. The soul will become inflamed. This takol be according to Malchut Tispato, Kerech HaNefesh Musvatz Musabava Aza, will become completely nullified with the strong love. You say to me, Avis Hashem, Ludov Kabeta Kling Ta Hashem. Milvad, Leravis Nafshi Shibachina Samayim, Ki Kamei Shamayim Va'esh Gash, just like physical water and fire. Hein Beis Havchim Betivam. Fire and water are, if you want to speak opposites in Gashmias, the practical case of opposites in Gashmias is fire and water. What does that mean? Maimu Teva Mechaber Umetzarif. Water unites, take water into dough, into flour, unites it. Veishu Beteva Mafrid Umefara Yisedis. It's interesting. Fire, everything is composed of 4 elements. You know when you see the 4 elements of everything? What it burns. When you take something and burn it, okay, so you have the fire, then you have the smoke, which is Eish and Ruach, and then there's also a little bit of moisture you see in the burning process, and then you have the ashes, which is offered. So fire, if anything, separates. Mayim binds. Water connects. Polarized, very good. Homogenizes, very good. Okay, whatever you say. So he says, like it says, Kanei Eish Bispadm Kola Yisaidis. She said, Amai Meitze Ba'ashin. The element of water comes out in the smoke. Yisaid off and Nasa Ephim of Kach Ava. So L'cheda, Ava, in fact, you have two types of Ava. The Alter Rebbe speaks in Tanya. You have Ava Kirish Be'esh. You have a love that comes from distance, the burning love. You know, and then you have, you're there already, Ava B'tainugim. Seemingly, these two Avas are opposites. It's either longing or you're there. It's either, davening unites both together. What does that do? Kach Ava B'chinas Rish Be'esh, which B'chinas Havchis at the level of Ava Shalmayim. The Dafka B'hain Shiti Shor Atzmus Amasa Nefesh Vuka B'yizbarich. Mayim is you're there already. You're quenched your thirst. And the fiery Ava is having the thirst. The other level of Ava, which is fire Shemittah, is Keiches HaNefesh. So this is what the fire does. That level unites both levels of Ava B'Tanugim. And that creates the proper learning Torah and doing mitzvahs, which are the food that keeps Hashem in the world. By the way, this is all, forgetting the Shemittah bit, this is all Pischali Achesi Rayasi. Right? This is, whatever, he didn't even start talking about that one yet. Okay, top of the second column of 80. Like it says, when Yosef finally, saw the brothers were really repentant and remorseful, he says his Rachmanis opened up, which is Lashon Chamimus. It is an expression of warmth. Yosef warmed up to the brothers. Mercy, having pity on somebody, also comes from a feeling of warmth. You feel closer to the person. A cold person is removed from other people. A warm person is a socialite. He's closer to... So in these two avas, you have also the same thing that have to be united.
So what is he saying? The meaning does that, right?
The Aved of a Jew with bittul and having these four processes of baking this bread, in other words, baking the neshama, taking the 10 things and making into one. That's all the Aved that creates the bread. That's what Hashem says, Pischuli Achesi Rayasi. The Jews should open up that level. That's our Aved to do. This is not coming from above. This is what we do. We need to do this.
So that's
yeah, in other words, simple English, be good. The Yidden are called Yosef, like it says, therefore, what did Yosef awaken the mercy, right? That's what it says, Nichmeru, he warmed up. Of all the 10 brothers, who did he really warm up to? Binyamin. Yeah? Now, so he says, Yosef is a level of Neikatzen Yosef. Yosef is a level of Nichmeru Rachem, of his mercy heated up. Al Binyamin, who is called Ben Aini. Right? That's why he was called Binyamin, because Ben Aini, the son of my affliction. To be making a cheshbon, echyarda. Where am I? Yeah, echyarda the matal kol chad from madiyad inish benafshi. Remember, we learned davening has to awaken the nefesh habamis. And you first have Sukkot de Zimra speaking how great God is in a way that even the nefesh habamis can understand. Then you have the malachim. And then if all doesn't work, What's the next stage right before, the last bracha before Shema? Avinu av rachman racham nacham aleinu. In other words, to awaken mercy. What mercy are we awakening? When the Jew finally realizes, after the greatness of Hashem, and how low the man is, people, the lowness of man, like it says in Shulchan Aruch, and you realize that my nefesh olakis is so lost and so far away from where it should be, that itself awakens Rachmanis.
And ourselves.
And Rachmanis, like we learned, Yaakov Hashepadas Avram, Yaakov who redeemed Avram. Avram was never in prison. Yaakov Hashepadas Avram means Yaakov, mercy awakens the love. And then it says, what did Yosef do? He went into a hidden room and he cried. What does it mean, hidden room? It means, in the Pasuk says, in other words, in simple English, it's not a show. It has to be in private. Private means it's between you and God. Like we said many times, the real proof that somebody is a religious Jew, if he is alone on an island where there's no satellites working, nobody can take pictures, nobody can see you, and there's no way you'll get caught if you do something wrong, and you're still done doing it. Like the Mishnah says in Pirkei Avos, b'makom she'ein ish, yishtadel, simply means if there's nobody to take charge, take charge. But the Mefarshim say in a deeper sense, you know, b'makom she'ein ish, where there's nobody around, over there be a mensch. Tishtadel liyasish. Be a man when nobody's around. In other words, you want to be a nice guy always. In your house also, when nobody's around except your family. When a person is the mistarim, that's why Yosef, Knesset Yisrael, awakens the Rachmanis on Ben Eini, the neshama that came down all the way to affliction. Neshama came all the way down to affliction, and he goes into the most pneumistic parts of the neshama. Vayovay achadra, vayev shaman. Then it says vayisapak, and he says simulachem. Now we have the bread. Give bread. He said, give the bread. Simulachem.